There's a line in the first Harry Potter that has always stuck in my head. Something about the way the lady on the train says, "Anything off the trolley, dears?" is just so perfect, and I've always wanted to try the pumpkin pasties. These are caramelized pumpkin hand pies, perfect for fall. We're going to start with the pumpkin filling, and what really makes this special is the caramelized pumpkin puree. I saw this used in the Milk Bar pumpkin pie recipe, and I thought it was so sick. 1 can of Libby's pumpkin puree goes on a sheet tray. Use a layer of parchment paper to make your job easier, and then place that in a 425 Fahrenheit oven for around 30 minutes. This is going to darken in color, the water is going to cook out, and the flavor is going to deepen. For some people, the crust is the most important part of any pie, and I call those people liars, but we're still going to show the crust some love. I got this recipe from King Arthur Flour, as they know way more about baking than I do. To a bowl, add 240 grams of all-purpose flour, that's about 2 cups, 3/4 a teaspoon of salt, and a half teaspoon of baking powder. The powder will give these enough rise to make a slightly less dense crust. Grab 2 sticks of cold butter and then cut them down into smaller pieces. I usually go in half down the middle and then a few cuts along the sides. Keeping everything cold here allows for a little bit more of a flaky crust. I find the best way to incorporate the butter is by using your fingers to pinch the cold butter into thin sheets. It takes a minute, and if I were making a pie, I'd try to work as quickly as possible to ensure it doesn't melt. With hand pies though, you need a little bit more structure in the dough, so it's fine if you work slower. Once mixed and it's looking like this, add in half a cup of cold sour cream. Fold that in with your hands until the flour starts to hydrate. I just do this in the bowl, and then once it's finally starting to come together and sort of hold its shape, I can just pour it out onto some saran wrap. Then you can seal it and place it in the fridge to chill and rest and sort of re-solidify for like 30 minutes or so. That's just long enough for the butter and sour cream to get cold again, and it's going to make it a lot easier to roll out for us. Once the pumpkin puree has darkened and reduced, take it out of the oven and let it cool. I don't want to add it to the mix while it's still warmed. When you think of a pumpkin pie, the filling is pretty liquidy, and this isn't quite like that. So while it's cooling, I like to grab a bowl and start on the rest of the mix. Add 3/4 of a cup of white sugar, 2 tablespoons of dry milk powder, 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, 1 teaspoon of just pie spice, usually like cinnamon, nutmeg, clove, those sort of spices, extra half teaspoon of cinnamon, and a 1/4 teaspoon of cardamom, as well as like a pinch of salt. Give this a good mix so the cornstarch and milk powder and all the seasonings are spread evenly throughout. Add in the cooled pumpkin puree and 1 egg yolk. This is going to be way thicker than your average pie, and that's what we need for our purposes. Again, if it's liquidy like a pumpkin pie mix, that just isn't going to fit into a hand pie. Set this in the fridge while you grab your dough and start work on that. When you're ready to actually bake these bad boys, heat your oven to 425 Fahrenheit. Grab your crust from the fridge and place it on a well-floured surface. If it's been sitting in the fridge for a while, this dough is going to be pretty hard. So what I like to do is just whack it with a rolling pin to kind of soften it out and spread it out. If you want extra flaky pie crust, you can totally split this into thirds, stack those thirds on top of each other, and then re-roll it. And I do that twice, and that just gives you a lot of layers. You don't really have to do it. Hand pies are great if they're flaky or if they're more like kind of a short crust. They work either way and are delicious either way, so it's sort of up to you. It's a little bit more work, but it gives you a nice puffy, flaky crust. Your roll is quite thin. It's like 1/8 of an inch thin or so, like a few millimeters. I find the process of rolling very cathartic. For someone who's not much of a baker, I always really enjoy it. I've got the set of donut cutters that makes this very easy. But basically I like big round dough pieces, so use large ramekins or dough cutters or big wide glasses if you've got those. You really could go crazy with any shape or size, but this works well as 12 half moon hand pies. The filling amount is perfect for that. As you cut, you'll have to reform the dough and re-roll it. It's not a big deal, just try to roll it to the same thickness. Continue this process until you have 12 cut circles. For filling, take roughly 1 to 1.5 tablespoons of the pumpkin filling and place it slightly off center in each piece of dough. The aim here is to not overfill them, as that will make it really hard to seal these bad boys up. Grab a little ramekin of water and wet the edges of each pie just to help seal them. If you don't wet them, they tend to open up. Fold each one over and then crimp the edges shut with a fork. It's probably not correct, but I like to do all of this at once. I don't like wasting time having to redo one of the stages, so I do each stage with every pie. With all of them beautifully sealed, we need to poke a tiny hole in the top for steam to vent out. Place them on a parchment-lined baking sheet and then put them in the oven for around 20 to 24 minutes. As these bake away, you can clean up and get ready to make the glaze for the pies. My oven has a few hot spots, so I like to rotate the tray as I'm cooking these, because if you don't, you'll end up with one side that's really dark and one side that's less dark. Just something to be aware of, and if your oven is like that as well, you're probably going to want to rotate it. When they come out of the oven, I like to set the whole tray on a cooling rack. That way air goes through the bottom, and it kind of chills the baking sheet a little bit faster. Even though the glaze is optional, I love the store-bought hand pies that are coated in a really nice thin sugary crust. Delicious. Mix together about 3 cups of powdered sugar with like 4 to 5 to 6 tablespoons of milk. If it's too thick, you won't get the right glaze pour and you'll run out before all 12 are coated. Once they've cooled for a few minutes, I'll take them off the sheet tray and put them on the cooling rack. The cooling rack's great because you can put a piece of parchment below it, and that will allow us to just glaze the top, and any excess glaze is going to run onto the parchment paper. It's just a really easy way to keep your counter clean. As the pies are still a little bit warm, I like to dump on the glaze so it sort of melts and covers everything, and you end up with a really, really nice, almost like crisp glaze on the outside with that sugar. So good. Now, I've been envisioning this recipe for like 10 years now. I've wanted to do this video for a very, very long time. And these came out exactly how I always imagined them. Super spiced, really incredibly pumpkin-y, especially with that caramelized pumpkin puree. That's kind of like a cheat code that I probably won't be skipping for any pumpkin pies in the future. These are perfect for fall and will absolutely get you in the mood and are kind of a must-have if you're going to do a Harry Potter marathon. I'm Cameron, and I'm here to show you incredible regional dishes from all over the world. I know these are a little bit of a movie item, but pasties exist from all over, from England to northern Michigan to the southern United States. They are a staple across many cultures, and they're incredible. So I really enjoyed making this. If you're into that kind of regional cooking, go ahead and subscribe. Massive shout out to the amazing people supporting me directly on Patreon through patreon.com/CameronMarty. Check it out and consider becoming a patron. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here. Cheers.